Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Please have mercy, make me one of your men, cause my people lost. Try to take them where you found them. It's where you found me, but this earth is hell surroundings. Satan's head is everywhere.
In the Mykayah of Yahweh,
Shabbat shalom.
and the Mykayah of Yahweh that watch by TV, shalom to you, and peace from Yahweh and from his son Yahshua HaMashiach be with you. As always, our prayer is that this message be a blessing to you.
Yes. Praise Yahweh.
Our topic is the commandments. We're going to read about the 10 commandments that we talk
Praise
about.
Yahweh.
Most people will accept 9, but the one they won't accept is the paramount. One of the well, all of them is paramount.
That's right. That's right.
This is the one that they want, but we're going to talk about it. And somehow or another, I do believe that people have come to the conclusion that commandments in the Old Testament and the commandments in the New Testament are not the same. And most of the time, because in Deuteronomy and in Exodus, the 10 is written right in order, but not in the New Testament, not all written in order. You see them here and there, they're not all in order, but they are the same.
Yes, they are teaching so the people can know.
They have not changed.
No, they never will.
They still have the same power, and you still get the same consequences when you don't do what he said, as they did, okay? So, in Exodus chapter 20, prayer is one of the things he said. Gave all 10 of them together. And I'm sure if you've been watching TV this past month, they had the famous rendition of the 10 Commandments with Brother Charleston Heston and Ewell Brennan and Edward G. Robertson and that other guy named Bo something. Bo Derrick was his wife, whatever, I forget his name. But anyway, they had some of it right and some of it wasn't right. But here, and it was one of my associates that told me he was talking to a pastor. The pastor was saying, because he watched the 10 Commandments, the other guy, the pastor was talking to my friend, watched the 10 Commandments, and he comes to the conclusion because when they seen the 10 Commandments, and when they went down when Mizraim went down in the sea, Pharaoh go to the side. It didn't go down in the sea, but the Bible said Pharaoh and his army got drowned, right? So therefore, he went over to the side. That was what Caesar Mill had it into it, right? Okay, well, we're going to start in Exodus chapter 20. In the first verse, it says, Yahweh spake these words, saying, and the second verse, he said, I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Israel, out of the bias of abundance. So now he's telling, then he goes on to start telling in verse 3, starts naming some commandments, okay? Verse 3, it says,
Thou shalt not have no other heirs before me.
So you should have no other heirs before me, right?
Yep.
And then in Deuteronomy 5:7 says the same thing. Read it. Deuteronomy 7 and 5. Deuteronomy 5 and 7. I'm break it up. Make it right. 5 and 7. It says, Thou shalt have no other heirs before me. So when we go to the New Testament, let's see, do it say the same thing. Look at Matthew chapter 4. Because we're talking about this is a one book, even though it has been divided, but it's still one book.
Yes, it is.
Matthew chapter 4 and verse 10 says,
Then said Yahshua unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt shock Yahweh the Elohim, and him only shalt thou have it.
To him. So you see it's the same thing. You're saying the same thing, same principle here.
Yeah.
Worship nobody but Yahweh. So why would people get the impression that they can change what Yahweh said and therefore they don't have to do this no more because people have told them they don't have? In Yochanan chapter 4 and verse 24, it's going to speak similar to this, even though it don't say it exactly like it's saying it over here. It's saying it, and
That's right. That's right.
And you're smart enough to receive it. Because Yahweh gave you knowledge. He gave you Yahder. So therefore you can do it. Chapter 4 and verse 24 says,
Elohim is a Ruach, and they that shaka Yahweh must shaka Yahweh in Ruach and in image.
So how you supposed to shock him? They don't say it about no other ones, right? No. Talking about me, shaka me, worship me, praise me, holla me, shaka me.
That's right. That's
Not
right.
no L that somebody made.
That's right. Teach it just like it is.
Because the others that, even though they have the same title, but they was made by the creation of one of Yahweh's creations, creatures, and they made them.
That's
So
right.
they are not really, even though they have that title, they are not able to do anything. If you did watch it, I was just thinking about it, and we'll probably think about something else somebody has said, but when you watch the Ten Commandments, you see them when the plague comes, and then Mizraim let Israel go, and then that's the first time I caught it when Pharaoh had put his son up on this jackal or whatever, supposed to be the god. Supposed to be the god.
Yeah, supposed to be.
And then when his wife came in, Nefertia or whatever her name is, and she said, you've been here 3 days, and he ain't did nothing.
Right.
Said she
Praise
supposedly had
Yahweh.
sent him out. So I never caught that before.
Right.
I caught that this time because of what the brother had said about when they left Mizraim, they went straight to the wilderness. When I know that wasn't true. But now I'm seeing it, and they made it in the picture that he said 3 days, you've been here 3 days, and he ain't did nothing. He's still alive. He's still dead, I'm saying. So therefore, they know then that he wasn't one. So apparently when when Pharaoh apparently didn't drown himself, he come back, didn't get drowned, he come back, and his wife asked him where the blood of Moshe. He said, his God is God. That's what he was El in the beginning.
Yeah,
He was the
right.
true mighty
That's
one, right?
Praise Yahweh, that's
He
right.
was the true mighty one.
He was forever and ever.
And he's always going to be the true mighty one.
Yeah, the only one.
So here, that was verse 3 with the first one, and the verse, and the next one here that says, we should have no graven images, all right? That go, many other things go with it, starting at chapter 20, verse 4 through 6. We're going to see some more things, but this is just like the second one. Anyway, but it has all these things in it. We don't have no graven images, don't have any likeness of anything, or we don't bow down to anything. Praise Abba Yahweh. Chapter 20, verse 4 through 6. And it read, yeah.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim above, or that is in the high air beneath, or that is in the high Mayim under the high air.
So he's talking about in this plane here, so I think I seen the brother kind of looking to see what the Bible said, why we read that. But we just using some Hebrew words there. But if you're in the verse where we're reading it, and you see the English word there, and when you hear us say a Hebrew word, that's the same thing, okay? Praise Abba Yahweh. So in verse 4, it says, thou shalt make unto thee any graven image of any likeness of anything that is in Shemayim or earth. In this word, I'm going to say heaven above, or the earth beneath, or that is in the waters, or Mayim, that under the earth, or earth, okay? So I use Eric for earth, Shemayim for heaven, Praise Abba Yahweh.
Praise up, teach us, Yahweh.
And Mayim for water.
Yes, praise.
But he's saying we're not to take nothing out of these things and make anything that's supposed to be a mighty one, because he's the mighty one.
That's right.
But when you read, when we see the GD in the regular Bible, that's talking about the mighty one, even though it might be talking about something that's been made that they call the mighty one. But it's only one mighty one. These other ones is a title, okay? So Muhammad Ali was the champion. Somebody else could have said he was champion until he lost the belt. He was the champion, right? Somebody else might have been claiming it, but they wasn't the champ. So Yahweh is the champ forever.
That's right. Praise Abba Yahweh. Praise
All right.
up.
And verse 5 says,
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor avid them. For I, Yahweh thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the high hours upon the high band unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
yeah, verse 6.
And showing high sin unto thousands of them that have me, and Shema my mitzvah.
Showing mercy to them that have me or love me and keep my mitzvah, keep my commandments, right?
Yeah.
So that's in there. So we have to know that that's like in the second one where he said, thou shall not bow down, right?
Yep.
To nothing, but all the rest of this is included in that commandment. All right, so let's look at Acts chapter, well, you can read, well, we're going to Acts, but you can read Deuteronomy 5, 8, and 10. It is corresponding with what we just read in Exodus, all right? 20 and 4 through 6. So, Acts chapter 15 and starting in verse 20 says,
But we write unto them that they abstain from pollution of idols, from fornication, and from the things strangled, and from them.
we see from fornication, from idols. We already read in the Old Testament they were not supposed to do what? Have no idols, right?
Right.
So we got it. We're not supposed to have no idols. So it's talking about the same thing in the New Testament.
Yeah, yeah.
That is said over there. But look at Romans 1, 23 and 25. So it's mentioning some of the things we just read over here.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's telling us the same thing. It didn't change in the New Testament.
No,
Yahshua came and the apostles came. They didn't change the commandments of Yahweh.
No, they did.
Contrary to people's opinion today.
Right,
Romans chapter 1 and verse 23 and 25 through 25. Okay? And you got to read.
And change the high kavod of the uncorruptible Elohim into an image made like into a corruptible Adam, and to birds, and to four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore Elohim also have gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own pay, to dishonor their own Gibeah between themselves, who changed the high image of Elohim into a lie, and shaka and serve the creature more than the Creator, who is correct forever. Amen.
And he told us over in Exodus we're not supposed to do that, right?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to worship nothing else
No, we
but
don't.
him.
That's
So
right.
even though it's not in the same context that we read it in Exodus, but it's saying the same thing.
Yes,
It's
it
mounted the
is.
same
Yes, it
thing.
is.
Don't be worshiping nothing else. Don't
That's
be
right.
giving my glory to nobody else. Don't be
right.
worshiping the creatures that I made rather than me, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the commandment of Yahweh.
Yes, it is.
So far, we okay. Everybody kind of agree with that, even though they don't use his name.
Right,
Even though
right.
they have give him a transmodified name or
Teach it just like it is so people know.
what is transmodified or what the other word is? Transmodification. They have, in other words, simpler. I just gave him another name. I took his name and gave him another name.
Right.
As I always say, I have said it many times, just like they did Ruth. They took Kent's name and gave him a name. That's what
right.
they did Yahshua.
Yeah, that's
Only
right.
they did
Praise
Yahshua
Yahweh, that's right.
after he was not longer on the earth, because they didn't walk around calling him JC.
No, they didn't.
while
Tell
he
it like
was-
it is. No, they didn't.
Or
What
he
did
would not have responded to him.
That's right.
So here we seeing, here even in Romans, it's telling us, don't do that.
Uh-huh.
So this is what is called the New Testament. This is also the guy that most people credit of changing the telling that the law ain't no more. This Shaul, which is called Paul, that he said, okay, the law ain't no more.
That's a
But-
lie.
But he didn't
that.
say it,
He didn't say that.
but people want it to be so, so
Right,
they
right.
read it into that.
Right.
But look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 1. So this is all dealing with what we read from chapter 24 and 6 through 6. These things are dealing with some of those things that was mentioned here. Under that commandment, that second commandment, we weren't supposed to have all these things, and we were not supposed to do these things. That's in chapter 8 and verse 1. And it reads,
Now let's touching things offered unto idols. We know that we all have Yahweh. Yahweh puffed up, but charity edifies.
but love edifies, okay? But we all have knowledge. We know that the idol is nothing of itself. It's nothing.
No, it's not.
It's really not nothing, but we get caught up in it and we get carried away with it and we begin to worship our idol.
Uh-huh.
Whatever it is, they don't have to be one that's supposed to be representing the Creator or the Mighty One. It could be whatever it is, your shoes,
That's right.
your car, your
That's
suit,
right. Teach it
your
just
hat,
like it is. That's right.
whatever it is, or you got a tie that you really like.
That's
You make it your L, okay?
Uh-huh.
Or your food, you
No,
got
that's
you make
right.
that your L.
Oh, yeah.
You got a favorite food you eat, okay? But we are not of this. So this boy, you could read this on through 13, but I'm gonna skip down to verse 12, and it reads,
But when you Hata so against the heart and wounded their weak conscience, you Hata against Hamashiach.
Lead on.
Wherefore, if meat make my heart to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my heart to offend.
So we're not supposed to offend. We read that in Exodus 2. We're not supposed to offend in that thing. So therefore, that's a commandment. We're not to go around offending our brothers, right? That's a commandment. We're not supposed to be offending our brothers, right?
Right?
If we know that something is offending them, then we are not supposed to do it.
Right. That's right. Teach it.
Especially if if it's against Yahweh, you show you know ain't supposed to be doing it, right? So we're not supposed to do that, so we won't do it, right?
That's right.
All right. Say in the same book and go to chapter 10 and verse 14. Chapter 10 and verse 14. And it reads.
Wherefore, my dearly behalf, flee from idolatry.
Huh? Do they say that over in the Old Testament in the Court? Don't flee from idolatry?
Yes, it does.
Very simple, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. First Yahshua and 1 John chapter 5. So this is lining up what we read with in Exodus.
Yes, it is.
So,
Line.
now if you want to argue with anything, argue with the writers that Yahweh told them to write.
That's right. Praise our Yahweh.
Chapter 5 and verse 21 of 1 Yahshua and 1 John. When you get it, you can read.
Little band, shamar yourselves from idols. Amen.
Again, you get confirmed. You've been confirmed enough to now for you to not to know that we are not supposed to do this. Know that these things are still image. If these here are image, when we get to the one that everybody want to shun, you got to know that it's image too,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Praise Abba Yahweh.
That's right. He's saying yesterday, today, and forever.
All right, now let's read Exodus chapter 20 and verse 7. He says, Thou shalt not take the name of Yahweh, thy Elohim, in vain. So they tell us our people change his name to Ananias to try to keep people from saying his name in vain. I can't keep you from saying his name in vain. I can't keep you from blaspheming his name, right?
That's right.
So no matter if I change it from this name to this name and it's supposed to replace this name, then when you use that and you blaspheme that, you use that in vain, then you're supposed to be using his name in vain still, isn't it? That makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but if I change my name to keep you from blaspheming the name that I already have, so this name is replacing the name that I got, so if you blaspheme that name that I just took, then you're blaspheming me still, right?
Yeah.
Praise Abba Yahweh.
Praise him.
All right, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 7 says,
Thou shalt not take the high Shem of Yahweh thy Elohim in vain. For Yahweh will not hold him guilty that taketh his Shem in vain.
so Yahweh is the judge. He's the one, if you take his name in vain, he's the one that's going to punish you. And I'm not the one that's going to punish you. And I ain't got nothing to stop him from punishing you.
Right.
It's all up on you, whether you believe what you read or not.
Teach it.
Don't take his name in vain. So there's a way you can take his name in vain. But we see people doing it all the time. But they don't use Yah, and they don't use Yahshua. They use the English substitute that they got. Okay. So you be at something, you see somebody do something, and then they go, "Oh, Jay." Why you calling him now? Oh God, why? Why? So they taking his name in vain. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Teach it so people can know.
Why me, Yah? Why me, God?
Yeah.
Why not you? You ain't doing what you're supposed to do, right?
That's it. Praise Yahweh.
Praise Abba Yahweh. So, we read that. Let's look at Matthew chapter 6 and verse 9. See, do it say anything that we just read in Exodus 20 and 7. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 9. If you got it, read it.
After this manner, therefore Palah ye, our Abba, which art in Shemayim, hallowed be thy Shem.
So he's talking, hallowed, not blaspheme.
That's right.
Hallowed be thy Shem, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah.
Hallowed be thy name, Yahweh. Hallowed be thy name, Yahweh. So that's what he wants. He don't want you blaspheming his name. Look at Yachanan, John chapter 5 and verse 43. 5 and 43. 5 and 43. Everybody got it? If you got it, read it.
I am coming to my Abba Shem, and you receive me not. For if another shall come in Yahweh in his own Shem, him you will receive.
So you receive somebody that don't come in Yahweh's name. In other words, you will shun somebody to come in his name. So anybody that comes speaking the word of Yahweh,
that's right,
they're coming in his name. But
that's right.
That's not their name, but they're coming in his name, speaking his word to you.
Yes.
So you have to not be partial to that, okay? Look at 10, same chapter, 10:25. 10:25. So this is matching up what we read over there. I mean, what you if you're smart, if you use the brain that Yahweh got you, you can put it together.
Yeah, that's right.
And you won't have no problem.
No, you won't. No, you
Because
won't.
Yahweh is giving you the ability to do these things.
He has.
Chapter 10 and verse 25 says,
Yahshua answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The work that I do in my Abba Shem, they bear witness of me.
so I'm doing something in my Abba Shem, all right? I'm doing it in his Shem. I'm doing what he said. I'm doing it in his name.
That's right.
I'm not blaspheming his name. And I'm not taking his name in vain. I'm doing what he said. If I'm doing something what Yahweh says, I'm not taking his name in vain, and I'm not blaspheming his name, right?
We give him kavod for
So
kavod.
what we're doing now, we're not blaspheming Yahweh's name.
Not.
But we saying something untrue that we said that Yahweh said, then we're blaspheming his name.
So the people can know that like it
And
is.
we're blaspheming his word, if you want to go.
Yeah, that's right.
Which the word in Yahweh is the same.
Yes, it is.
Praise Abba Yahweh.
So,
Chapter 17 of the same book. So we got enough witness here for you to see this. Yahweh got it paramount.
Yes, he does.
17:6 says,
I have manifested thy Shem unto the high Adam which thou gavest me out of the age. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have Shema thy Dabar.
they have Shabbat, they have kept you to the bar. They have magnified you. I magnified your name.
Hallelujah,
I didn't
Yahweh.
blaspheme your name. I didn't take your name in
Yahweh,
vain.
that's right.
I didn't
Oh.
speak nothing about you, your word in vain.
No, you did.
Because again, the word is Yahweh, and
Yes, it is.
Yahweh is the word, right?
Yes, it is.
So I'm not saying nothing contrary to what he has already
No,
said. We don't
yeah.
find nowhere
No.
where Yahshua said anything
No.
contrary to what he had already said
No.
when he was with the Father,
That's
okay?
right, only
Because he
speaking
was
thus
the
says
mouthpiece
Yahweh. That's
in
it.
Shemayim.
Right.
Most people don't know that Yahshua wore many hats or had many offices,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, praise him.
They just think he's just one dimension, but he was
Uh-huh.
had many offices in the kingdom,
Yes,
all right?
he does.
He still got many
Yes, he does.
offices, okay? Stop trying to make him be one dimension. He's not one dimension.
Oh, you can't put him in the box.
Because it already told you, it said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yahweh, and the Word was Yahweh, and the Word
Uh-huh.
became flesh.
Yeah.
The Father didn't come flesh,
That's
but the
right.
Son became flesh,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But he was already there, right?
He was. Praise Yahweh.
When Yahweh created Adam, Kawa was already there,
Uh-huh.
better known as Eve, right?
Yeah, she was.
She just, the manifestation hadn't come complete. All right, because it said Yahshua was slain from the foundation of the world. So in other words, he was already there, but it wasn't time for him to come
That's
to be
right.
slain.
Teach it so people
So in the
know.
process of time, he was brought into the world
Yes,
to
he was.
do that job.
Yeah.
He became flesh and blood. He was prepared a body. He had to empty out himself. He had to empty out all his deity, all his power, and become a man.
Gave it up for us.
Give it up for you
Praise
and I.
Yahweh.
But yet you don't want to keep his commandments.
Uh,
Praise Abba Yahweh.
praise God.
What we read? 17?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at, we read 17, what? 6. Did we get it? Did we understand it?
Yes, we did. Praise
Romans
Abba
2:24.
Yahweh. Praise him.
Hey. Let's verify what we read in
Yes, it is.
Exodus chapter 20 and verse 7, right? How we are supposed to use his name and how we are not supposed to use his name, right? Chapter 2 and verse 24 of Romans says,
For the high Shem of Elohim is blasphemed among the high goyim through you, as it is written.
so the people that supposed to be protecting his name, he's saying, y'all blaspheme my name among the Gentiles, among the goyis, right?
Yeah.
So people out there, people who supposed to know Yahweh, supposed to be teaching the other people, are blaspheming his name.
Yeah.
So don't let us be those kind of people, okay, blaspheming
right.
his name.
Praise
Let's
God.
make sure we speaking about him, we speaking truth.
Uh-huh.
And when I say truth, because he is truth.
Yes, it is.
So we want to be speaking his truth,
Yes.
not our truth,
That's right.
not the world's truth,
That's
but his
right.
truth. So if we speaking his truth, we're not blaspheming his name.
That's right. Thus says
We're not
Yahweh.
taking his name in vain. We're not speaking about him in vain, right?
Right.
Praise Abba
Praise
Yahweh.
him. Praise him.
Because he's worthy.
All the time, no matter what.
For the name of Yahweh or the name of Elohim is blasphemed among the Gentiles or the goyim through you, as it is written.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking about the circumcision people. He's talking about Israel who was circumcised.
That's right. Tell it like it is.
They was doing the blaspheming. And they was the one supposed to have been their ancestors, one supposed to change his name from Yah to Anonah to keep from blaspheming, but now they still blaspheming
Still
his name.
doing it today,
So if they
right?
called it, if they done changed his name, they using Anonah, he said, now my name is still being
That's
blasphemed.
right. Today it still is. Praise Yahweh.
Okay.
Teach it just like it is.
Can we see that?
Yes, you can.
Is it making sense?
Yes, it is.
Look at 1 Timothy chapter 6
Praise Yahweh.
and verse 1. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 1. So far, all this is okay. Everybody, all the preachers in the world pretty much agree with this right now. But after a while, they won't be agreeing with Brother Mykayah, and they won't be agreeing with the word. Because Brother Mykayah is going to be agreeing with the word.
That's right. Praise
Yahweh.
Yahweh. Praise Yahweh.
Chapter
That's
6, 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 1 reads,
Let as many as are under thy yoke count thy own masters worthy of all kavod, that the Hashem of Elohim and his doctrine be not be blasphemed.
So we just said about his, don't let his teaching that he taught us and we supposed to be teaching his teaching be blaspheming.
That's right.
So that's like blaspheming him. That's
Yes,
like
it
taking
is.
his name in vain when we do these things.
Yes, it is.
Is that making sense?
Yes, it does.
And this is where? Is this in what they call the New Testament
Yeah. Yeah.
or the Hadak Barik?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, don't let nobody, with these few places that we read here, don't let nobody change your mind from
That's
that no
right.
more.
That's right. Stand.
Because it's wrong. All right?
Stand.
All right, go back to Exodus, and we're going to go to chapter 8 and read through 11. Where it says, remember the Sabbath day. That's the one. That's the one.
That's it. Praise
That's the
Yahweh.
one.
Yeah.
Remember the Sabbath
Yeah, that's it.
day to keep it Kadash,
Yeah. Praise
to keep
Yahweh.
it holy.
Yeah.
And it reads 20 and 8.
Remember the high Sabbath Yom to Shema it Kadesh.
So it says what? Remember the Sabbath. Okay, remember it.
Yeah.
By doing, remember it, don't place it with Yom 1.
That's right. Never can compare.
Okay, I'm not going to read all of it. Let's skip down to verse 11. What did it say there?
For in 6 Yom Yahweh made Shemaiah and Arab, the sea, and all that there in them. And Shalom the high Sabbath Yom. Wherefore Yahweh barak the high Sabbath Yom and hallowed it.
So this Sabbath is hallowed. The day that we're doing this is hallowed.
Yes, it is.
This is hallowed ground. This is hallowed.
Yes, it is. Praise Yahweh.
This is set apart
Yes, it is.
for Yahweh and for his people, those who will obey him. But what we just read, these two places, let's look and see what it says in the Kadash Barik, which is the New Testament, and Matthew chapter 12. And see, do it come close to saying anything that we just read over here.
Okay.
Chapter 12 and verse 8, and it says,
For the high bond of Adam is master even of the high Sabbath Yom.
so here he's telling me he's master of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Why? Because he the one made it.
That's right.
Therefore, he can be the master of the Sabbath. But
Yeah,
it's saying
yeah.
there is a Sabbath.
Yeah.
All right. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 20. He's saying he is. So we
Yes,
get
he is.
confirmation that the Sabbath does exist, and it is mentioned in the New Testament.
Yes, it is.
Contrary to, like what I said, the Ruach said earlier, that they're not in line up like they is in Exodus chapter 20 and Deuteronomy chapter 5. They're not lined up, but they are mentioned. So therefore, just because they're not in sequence like they are in Exodus and Deuteronomy, that does not mean they don't exist anymore.
Right,
Because that's
right.
what most of the time, because we're going to get to the places where you see that he made everything but the Sabbath, but we see that he's naming them here, right?
That's right. That's
We
right.
see that he's naming the Sabbath here now, right?
Yeah.
Praise Abba Yahweh.
Praise Him.
24 and 20 says,
But beloved ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the high Sabbath Yom.
not even on the Sabbath, right? So we're getting the Sabbath mentioned. So it was different that they were keeping the Sabbath.
Yeah, yes, they
The
were.
Sabbath was not done away with it.
No, it wasn't.
And Yahshua is saying it. If Yahshua is saying
Yeah.
it, then it's not like when we hear people say that old Jewish fable. Then Yahshua taught a Jewish fable then, right? Yahshua was mentioning about a Jewish fable, right? Wrong.
That's right. He was talking about the Sabbath.
He talking about truth. He was telling us
Right.
truth. Somebody else done made it a Jewish fable.
Yeah. And
All right, Mark chapter 1. Because man don't want it. Man want his Sabbath.
That's right.
He don't want Yahweh's Sabbath. He want his Sabbath.
Right.
Because in his Sabbath he can do whatever he wants,
Uh-huh.
and he's guilt free,
So he think.
and he's sin free. But he can't with Yahweh's Sabbath, all right? Mark chapter 1 and verse 21 reads,
And they went into Capernaum.
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 Go ahead.
And straightway on the high Sabbath Yowm, they entered into the temple and taught.
So here it says, again, it's confirming the temple, and this is Mark was divinely inspired to write this, right? And they went into Capernaum, and straightway on the Sabbath day, a Sabbath Yom, he entered unto the temple.
Yes,
we
did.
got here in your book, it says synagogue, but that's a Greek thing. But in the Old Testament, we had temples, temples, tabernacles, and congregations.
That's right.
Or they may call it an assembly. But here it's telling us they entered in on what? The Sabbath day.
Sabbath.
So this is not, don't seem like a Jewish fable to me.
No, it's not.
We read it over here in Exodus. Remember the Sabbath day.
Right.
And what is he doing? He remembering it.
Yeah.
Not only remembering it, he's observing it, right?
Yeah.
He's going into the temple because that's their custom. People on the first day of the week, their custom is what? Going into their temple on what? First day of the week. People of the Bible custom was going in the temple on the seventh day of the week.
Sabbath day.
All right? And he didn't change.
No, it did.
And verse 22 says,
And they were astonished at Yahshua's doctrine, for he taught them as one that had two cribs, and not as the scribe.
so they was astonished at his teaching, for he taught them as one that has what? Authority.
Yep. Which he did.
He had authority.
He did.
A two cow. And not as the scribe. The scribe didn't have the authority.
No, they did.
When Moshe was speaking, he had the authority. Yahweh gave him the authority. But through the years, when these people were being his successors, they kind of lost that authority that they had. Because they just stopped doing what Yahweh said
Right.
and added a lot of stuff in on their own. You know, they bring a lot of stuff in. Just like when I was listening to the preacher, like when Constantine became and he wanted to become and bring the Roman into what is called Christianity, he let them bring everything else in with him.
That's right. Teach it so people
So he
know.
could keep them a peace, who he could keep them on his side.
Right.
Okay? Yes, you can be, I decree you of being a Christian. I decree you to being a believer. But you ain't went through the process. You ain't been baptized. You haven't repented. I decree that you are. So therefore, I decree the first day of the week as being the Sabbath. And he did that.
That's right.
But it's not. But he didn't have that authority. He had authority on earth, but his authority don't override Yahweh's
That's right.
authority.
Praise Yahweh. Nothing override that.
All right, the second chapter of this book, Mark, and chapter 2 and verse 27 and 28 says,
And Yahshua said unto them, The high Sabbath was made for Adam, and not Adam for the high Sabbath. Therefore the high bond of Adam is master also of the high Sabbath.
Again, we keep seeing that it's the Sabbath. We keep seeing the Sabbath, and it's in the New Testament, it's not in the Old Testament. Again, according to our tradition that we've been taught, when we see red writing, this is Yahshua talking, right?
That's right.
So when somebody say the Sabbath is a Jewish fable, then, quote, well, in other words, that it ain't no such thing as Jewish fable.
That's
because
right. That's
ain't no such thing as Jews,
That's
okay?
right.
They are descendants of the tribe of Yehuda, okay? So he's saying that he's a man. The Sabbath is not made for man, is not made for the Sabbath, but Sabbath is made for the man. For what? For you to rest.
That's
Rest
right.
in Yahweh. And when some people come to, well, we rest, or we don't go nowhere, we just stay at home on the Sabbath. That ain't what he's saying.
No, that ain't what he's said
That's
do.
not what he's saying.
He
We
said-
just already seen when they left and they got to this place where Capuyum, they did what? Went into the synagogue on the Sabbath. And we know that that was their custom, right?
That's right.
So from here, and from what we read in Exodus 28 and 11, we getting a lot of proof that the Sabbath is good, right?
That's right. It's not done away with.
Luke chapter 4 and verse 16. So I want, this might be my own ego here, but I want to pound it.
That's right.
I
Thus
pray,
says
I
Yahweh.
pray that I'm pounding it by the Ruach Kadash,
Praise
and not by
Yahweh,
myself.
praise
but I
Yahweh,
want it to
Yahweh.
be take root.
Yes, that's what
Chapter-
Yahweh wants.
Luke chapter 4 and verse 16 says,
And Yahshua came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up.
mm-hmm,
And as Yeshua's custom was, Yeshua went into the temple on the high Sabbath yard and stood up for it to read.
so he went in on the Sabbath Yom. Again, this is Luke, who was put pen to paper and wrote what Yeshua said.
That's right.
All right? By the guidance of the Ruach Kadash. It's not his private interpretation.
That's right.
This is what the Ruach Kadash
Yes.
had him to write.
Yes.
When we are saying things about the book of, about the Bible, we're supposed to be guided by the Ruach
Yes,
Kadash, right?
yes,
We're
yes.
supposed to be saying it by the inspiration of Yahweh,
Yes. Praise Yahweh.
his spirit, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying this was his custom. That was the custom of the Messiah. That's where he was brought up at. He was brought up doing what? Keeping that custom. He
Yes,
was
he
brought
did.
up keeping that
Yes, he
stuff.
did,
He was
always.
brought up keeping the Sabbath.
Uh-huh.
He didn't just start keeping the Sabbath when he came in flesh until he got grown. He was brought up keeping the Sabbath.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we wasn't brought up keeping the Sabbath. But once we learn,
Praise Yahweh for the Yahweh.
We are
that gave
fully-
us now. Yeah.
we are fully committed to keeping it now once we learn about it, right?
Praise him. That's right.
And
Praise
keeping
him.
it like Yahweh wants us to keep it. Praise Abba Yahweh.
Praise him.
All right, look at 2358 of the same book. Because I wanted to get it.
That's
I
right,
want you.
Yahweh
I want
wants
us to
us
get
to
it. I
get it.
want me to get it.
That's right. He wants everyone
I
to
invested
get it.
my life into the word of Yahweh.
Yes, that's
Unlike
it.
Christ, I had come too far now to
That's
find
right.
out that
That's
what
right.
I'm doing is
Praise
wrong.
Yahweh, that's right.
For
That's
some,
right.
for this to be some folk tale,
That's
this
right.
is true. This is image.
Emmett.
2356. 2356. And it reads, when you get it,
And they returned and prepared spices and ornaments, and shalom the high Sabbath Yom according to the high mitzvah.
they what? Kept the Sabbath.
Yeah, they did.
And this one is a high Sabbath. This is talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Uh-huh.
Okay? He say, and they returned and prepared spices and ornaments and rested the Sabbath day according to the ordinance, according to the mishpah, according to the commandments. According to the commandments, they're supposed to rest on the Shabbat, not to be working on the Shabbat. So therefore, they didn't go and put the spices on the Shabbat.
That's right.
Okay?
Teach it tell it like it is.
That was the high Sabbath, it was not a weekly Sabbath. That Sabbath in that year when Yeshua was crucified fell on a Thursday. Okay? So when you read about these high Sabbaths, they're yearly Sabbaths, they can fall on any day.
That's right. That's right. Teach it.
But in that particular year, when he was crucified, it fell on a Thursday because Passover was on a Wednesday.
Okay. Teach it.
If anybody been watching some of what Price called his classic sermons, he went on and brought it out
Yeah. That's right. He did.
to let people know that Easter is a farce.
Yes. Praise Yahweh. He did.
That is
Yes,
not
he did.
true. Okay? Now, with this evidence in hand, we really don't need any more, but I want to go to the writing of Shaul, which is better known as Paul, Well, he's the one that people give credit for doing away with these things, doing away with the law, doing away with the Sabbath. So let's look at Acts chapter 13. He's the one, they said, done away with it, that these things are not necessary. So he would be just like the guy told the man, the brother, hey, you're not supposed to have no Sabbath night. You ain't supposed to be out serving Sabbath night. And he came out Sabbath night, and then on a high Sabbath night, and then the brother found out about it. He called him a hypocrite, because that's what he was. Or you gonna tell me I'm not supposed to do it because it's some food involved? I'm coming out. Okay? I don't care. I'm gonna come out and eat, even though I don't believe it's right. But I'm coming out and eat because it's a high Sabbath. So the book says, if you be given to appetite, put a knife to your throat. Okay. Yeah, what they cooking.
That's
if
right.
It's wrong,
that's right. If it ain't up Yahweh, we don't want it.
If it's wrong, you don't come out.
Yeah, that's right. You ain't taking no part.
So now that was an offense to the brother that he told, and this brother took it seriously. All right, chapter 13 and verse 14 says of Acts.
But when they departed from Phrygia, they came to Antioch, and in Pisidia, and went into the temple on the high Sabbath Yowm and sat down.
They went in and did what? Sat down.
Yeah.
This is the man that they say the law ain't no more. But he hear him doing something. So that if he doing something he ain't supposed to be doing, he's a hypocrite, right?
That's right. That's
if
right.
he telling me I ain't supposed to do it now, he doing it, then he's a hypocrite, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be it.
If he telling the Sabbath is done away with and he keeping it, he's a hypocrite. Next verse says.
And after the reading of the high Torah and the high Kohen, the rulers of the temple went unto them, saying, You are them an art. If you have any debar of exhortation for the people, say on.
He said, and after the reading of the law and the Nabi and the rulers of the temple sent unto them, saying, Ye men and ox, if you have any debar of exhortation for the people, say on.
Yeah.
Say it on.
Praise Yahweh.
So we're supposed to have some words of exhortation for the people.
Yes, we do.
From Yahweh.
Yes, praise Yahweh. That's it. Praise Him.
When they come on the Shabbat, you're supposed to have, they're supposed to be uplifting. They're supposed to make you happy.
Lift him up. Lift us up. He lifts us up higher and higher.
So Exodus 20 and no, don't go there. Yeah, Exodus 20 and 8 and 11. We backing this up here with all these scriptures from the New Testament, telling us that the Sabbath is valid, right?
Yes, it is.
And that's talking about the 7th day, which is on the Roman calendar is called Saturday.
Praise
On Yahweh's
Yahweh.
calendar is just Yom 1, Yom 2, Yom 3, Yom 4, Yom 5, Yom 6, Yom 7. Okay? But here in Acts 15:21 said, so here this man that supposed to abolish the Sabbath, or said it's been abolished, here he's doing it constantly here in the book of Acts here, right? Chapter 15 and verse 21 says,
For Moshe of old time had in every city them that preached him, being read in the temple every Sabbath Yom.
so here it was, he's quoting something in Moshe, but most people get this wrong. Moshe didn't have himself read in the temple, but he had who read in the temple? Yahweh read in the temple every month, every Sabbath. And Moshe of old, of Zakar time, had in every city them that preach him, being read in the synagogue or being read in the temple, every Sabbath Yom. Every Sabbath Yom.
Every.
So he's quoting something from Moshe, which we quoting over here, where Moshe was supposed to be an author in Exodus, right? They read it, but he was under the guidance of Yahweh, right?
That's right.
So the Sabbath is important for man who believes the book. If you don't believe the book, then it's not important to you, right? and you will go anywhere you want. Look at the 16th chapter of this book. So, 16:13. And it reads,
And on the high Sabbath, we went out of the city by a riverside, and where Tiflah was wont to be made. And we sat down and spake to the high Mykayah, which resorted thither.
What did I say though? I got lost 13, okay. Okay. I have my page turned down. I said, something wrong here. Something ain't right. Now we got it. Okay, he says, read that again. He says, and on the Sabbath, we went out of the city by the riverside, where Tiflah was wanted to be made. And we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither.
Yeah.
So, what day was it?
The Sabbath.
What day was it?
Shabbat.
Shabbat, Sabbath,
Yep.
Shabbat, or the seventh day, right?
Yowm.
Whichever one of them you prefer to use, Shabbat, Sabbath, the seventh day.
Yeah.
That's when they did it, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, with all this evidence, I don't see how you can be misconstrued. Look at the 17th chapter and verse 2. All right. You should no longer let nobody persuade you that this is wrong. All right, read.
And so, as his manner was, went into them, and 3 Sabbath Yowm reasoned with them out of the Scriptures.
Out of the Scriptures. He was reading with them out of the Scriptures. So we know the New Testament wasn't written then, right?
That's right.
So what
That's
was he
right.
reading them out of? Out of what they called the Old Testament,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
And he was talking about what? The Sabbath.
Yes, he was.
But if it wasn't no good, why would he be reading
That's
with
right.
them? Not 1 Sabbath, but 3 Sabbaths, right?
Praise our Yahweh. Praise Him.
So we got to get this.
Yeah, have to. Y'all wants us to.
And probably this is where I'm going to wind up on this here before we start on the next one next week, probably. Praise our Yahweh. Because I want all these here to get in. Acts 18. Acts 18. And verse 4. Again, and it read.
And he reasoned in the temple every Sabbath, and persuaded the YHWH and YHWH.
So he reasoned every Shabbat
Yeah.
and persuading every Shabbat. And the Yardems and the Goyes, or the Greeks which are Goyes, they're Gentiles too. So same thing. He was with them. He's talking to them.
Yeah.
So when we read it, Exodus chapter 20 and verse 8 through 11, this is what he's talking about. And he's still doing it here. He's still saying it's valid. He's still pushing on doing it because this is his custom. He's still doing it.
That's right.
And some people, well, now he's not the same one he was at the beginning when he was persecuting the people for Yahshua's sake. Now he has made the change over here. He done made the change now. And he's still keeping the Sabbath. So it wasn't nothing wrong with the Sabbath. Well, he was keeping the Sabbath for most part. The people that called Israel at that time, it was keeping the Sabbath. He was just making it a burden. They was adding things onto it that Yahweh didn't say.
Yes, right.
But they was keeping it. When you read in Revelation, when he was writing to those churches, he only told them about the things that they wasn't doing. He didn't tell them about the things they was doing. They was okay with it. The thing that they were doing was okay. They didn't need no correction on that, right? The things that they wasn't doing, they needed correction. I want you to know that I'm not well pleased with you because you ain't doing this and you ain't doing that. All right? So here he's telling them what's going on. So skip down to verse 11. And it reads.
And he continued there 1 year and 6 months, teaching the high debar of Elohim among them.
So he was teaching the word of Yahweh among them, right?
Yeah.
Verse 4 said, on the Sabbath days, 3 Sabbath days. But now it tells us he was there, and he continued there 1 year and 6 months. So he was there, what, 18 months?
Yeah.
18 months.
Teaching on the Shabbat.
Teaching them about the Daba of Yahweh. So teaching about the Daba of Yahweh among them, he had to be continuing talking about the Sabbath, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So that's a lot of confirmation from
Yes, it is.
what we
Praise
just
Yahweh,
read,
Yahweh.
right?
Praise Yahweh.
Now look at Colossians chapter 2, where people got this. Well, see, you shouldn't let nobody so this judge you because you don't keep the Sabbath. No, you're right. It's the opposite of what they're saying. I'm going to let you judge me because I do what Yahweh says. Chapter 2 and verse 16 says,
Let no Adam therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or respect of Kadesh Yom, or of the new moon, or of Sabbath Yom.
so these people here want to do this. They want to make you think that, okay, you can't judge me because I eat pork. No, I ain't judging you because you eat pork. The Bible is judging you because
That's right.
you eat pork.
Thus says Yahweh.
I'm just repeating what it
That's
said.
right. That's right.
So I'm not, or either a meat, if I just don't want to say pork, or meat, don't want nobody to judge me because I don't want to be a vegetarian, okay? I want to eat some meat, but I'm going to eat the meat that Yahweh said I can eat.
That's right. That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
So people want to judge you because you won't become a vegetarian. But if you're going, my thing is, if you want to be a vegetarian, stop trying to make food taste like meat.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Stop trying to make spaghetti taste like meat. If it ain't meat,
Right.
if you want meat, get you some meat that Yahweh said you can eat, all right?
That's right.
So I'm not letting nobody judge me because I won't eat meat. Because I eat meat. And if I was a vegetarian, I wouldn't let you judge me because I didn't eat
That's
meat.
right. Praise Yahweh.
Okay.
That's right.
And just because I keep the Sabbath, I'm not going to let you stop me from keeping the Sabbath. Try to
praise
make me
Yahweh.
shame
Never.
for keeping the Sabbath,
Never,
which
never.
I know that I'm supposed to keep. He say, let no man therefore judge you or surfeit you in meat or in drinks or respect of a holy day. I'm not going to let you judge me because I have respect of Yahweh's day.
That's right. Praise Yahweh.
I have respect for Yahweh's day. You have respect for the days of the world.
Yeah,
I have respect
yeah,
of
that's
Yahweh's holy days.
That's right.
Okay? Easter is not a holy day.
No, it's not.
Matter of fact, that's not his name. That's not the original name. It's Estaris.
That's right.
Okay? It's not that. So, I'm not, that's what you want to do, that's what you do, but don't tell me that that's what I'm supposed to do because I know I'm not supposed to.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Please have mercy, make me one of your men, cause my people lost. Try to take them where you found them. It's where you found me, but this earth is hell surroundings. Satan's head is everywhere, I flip a new page.